Welcome back to the Cold Blooded Sports Podcast. Today we're gonna give you guys our first NBA podcast. We're gonna talk about we're gonna recap the trade deadline, talk about winners, losers. Then after that, we're just gonna give you guys a quick power ranking of the top 15 teams that we feel right now. So I'll let Rob start with his first winner or loser.
Yep. So let's start with the first winner. So for me, the first winner is going to be the 76ers because they traded away 3 second-round picks for two great shooters off the bench, Alec Burks and Glenn Robinson III. I feel like when you trade away second rounders, they're kind of, like shots in the dark to even be productive in the league. I mean, we can name a few good second rounders, but I just think that if that's all that they're asking for, I would take those two shooters. It's great for Ben Simmons. It helps you space the floor. It's good for the second unit for the playoffs, and I think it was just overall a good trade for them.
Yeah, and with the Sixers, like that, they need as much shooting as they can possibly get
Yeah,
around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. So that's a big pickup for them. My first winner is going to be the Timberwolves. And I love this move for the Timberwolves because they shed some salary. Not necessarily in the D'Lo trade, but getting rid of Gorgie Jang in another trade. They shed some salary, and I mean I love them bringing in D'Angelo Russell. You get Cat his first, I'd say, all-star level point guard. No disrespect to Jeff Teague, but he didn't really do much for them, and I love it for him. Cat can finally have somebody that can elevate him maybe because Wiggins isn't the playmaker that D'Angelo Russell is. So I think for them, I think another factor in this trade is they get to keep their first round pick this year, which is right now it's a top 5 pick. So
yeah,
I think that's a huge win for them, not having to give up a first until next year when they could be maybe pushing for a 6, 7, 8 seed, and that pick ends up being somewhere between 14, 15, somewhere in that range rather than giving up a top 5 pick. So I think that was a great value for them to get a franchise point guard and only have to give up Wiggins and some picks next year. And holding on
right.
to that first this year is a big thing for me. Why I think they won the trade deadline.
Yeah, plus they got Amari Spellman too, and he's not, like a big glitz and glamour kind of
Yeah, they
guy,
got
but
some
he's a
good
pretty
depth.
good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, and
Um.
in the other trade, another reason I think they're winners is they got Malik Beasley too.
Oh yeah, that's
Um,
right.
and if nobody throws a big money contract at him and they could bring him back, I mean, I feel like that's a solid piece to build around Culver and Okogie and just build up this young core. So they had a good deadline.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. My other winner, aside from those two, is going to be the Grizzlies. Getting something like Justice Winslow for Iguodala, who hasn't played a single game for you the whole year, who didn't want to play a game for you the whole year, is pretty great. They did, have to give away some pieces, but that's going to happen. But Justice Winslow, I think he's going to help bring that winning culture to the Grizzlies even more because they have a great young front with Jaren Jackson, Brandon Clark, and John Morant, and I think you're just going to add more talent to that young locker room. And then also they got Jordan Bell after the Rockets traded for him, and they traded him there for Bruno Caboclo. Um, Jordan Bell was on the Warriors. He was on the Timberwolves. He knows how to win. I think he's a good locker room guy, and I think it'll fit in well for them in Minnesota, or excuse me, Memphis.
Yeah, I think that's a theme for a lot of this. Is like there's only like one really big trade, but like, well, I guess two if you consider the Iggy trade a big
Yeah,
trade. But a lot of it is most of it just like getting good value, and I think a lot of teams got good value. And I
right,
think a team that got a lot of value was the Miami Heat.
for
Getting
sure.
Iggy, I mean, extending him to that contract. I believe there's a team option or something like that. So it's only 15 million this year, I believe. Also getting Jay Crowder, I think that's going to be a big addition for them. Another guy
Yeah,
like the Heat look for these like tough guys. Like they have a bunch of like tough physical players, and I
like
think
grit and
Jay
grind
Crowder
people.
fits. Yeah, he fits that mold. He brings shooting, defense, toughness, just everything you'd want in a guy coming off the bench who could even start in a small ball lineup, which we see the
Right.
league is going towards.
Yeah, I think the Heat were pretty big contenders in the trade deadline because they were trying to go get Danilo Gallinari as well, and they couldn't get him in the trades. But I think it was still a really good trade deadline for them. Like we know they got Iguodala, Jay Crowder, uh, really good wings. I think it'll help them make a big playoff push. And then one more winner for me is going to be the Hawks getting Clint Capella. I think they needed a center. They have John Collins, they have Trey Young, and now they have Trey Young's lob partner. I think it's going to be great for them, give them another chance to work well in the East, and hopefully make a big playoff push themselves.
Yeah, they didn't have to give up, and they get a center in Clint Capella who can do. He can provide rim protection, and he's on a team friendly deal. That deal's not going to hinder anything they'd want to do if they wanted to be players in free agency for somebody. So I like that for them. Another team that I think is a winner is definitely the Los Angeles Clippers, picking up
Yeah,
Marcus Morris and not having to give up a lot. They got to keep Shamit, which was rumored that the Knicks really wanted Shamit, but keeping Shamit. I mean, if you look at the depth on this team now, you got Kawhi, Paul George, Harrell, Williams, Beverly, Marcus Morris, Shamit. Like they're just a deep team,
they
and
are.
adding another guy that can guard multiple positions like that is just going to set them over the top. So I think that they're huge winners for the trade deadline.
Yeah, I agree. And with that being said, we're going to move into the losers now. And my first loser is going to be the Pistons. That trade made no sense to me whatsoever. I think it was a horrible trade, probably for both teams, but more or less the Pistons. You give up Andre Drummond, who's a great center. He's an all star. He's a top five center in the league right now, playing his life out. For Brandon Knight, John Henson, and a second round pick. Like you couldn't get a first round pick for him at all. Let alone that you couldn't have asked for like Colin Sexton or someone like Darius Garland. I mean, I just think that trade totally threw off the entire NBA Twitter. Uh, I didn't get it at all.
Yeah, and I think it's a big thing. It's just showing how the league values centers. It's kind of like in football how the running back and the true center is kind of just they're kind of similar in that that teams don't think you need one. But definitely the Pistons and the Cavs, they were both losers for us. I just think it didn't make sense. I don't know why they necessarily traded Drummond. I think I read somewhere that it was because he was going to opt into his player option, and they just didn't want that money on the books. But I
Right.
mean, both teams they don't have any direction. Like they're not going anywhere relatively soon.
Mm-hmm.
They're both rebuilding, have young cores. So I
Look at
mean,
Tristan Thompson. Like, why do you have Tristan Thompson still too? Like they were. I thought that
I
they
mean,
were
these
going
are
to
just
buy
two
out Tristan
dysfunctional
Thompson.
franchises.
Yeah.
They're just showing just that incompetence to just make deals that don't necessarily make sense. Like there's not like I don't know what they expected to get out of this deal on both sides, but either way, they both came out losers.
Yeah. Do you want to say yours?
Another my other loser. I had the Rockets as a loser.
Yeah.
Only because they weren't able to get
A big.
a big, and Tristan Thompson apparently is not getting bought out. So I do think they need to find a big. I don't necessarily think it has to be somebody elite because I mean, like last night against the Lakers, they showed us that they can play this weird small ball and win. It's kind of like to their advantage because I think teams are just going to immediately go to the post, so they already know what's coming.
Yeah.
So I think that gives them an advantage. But not being able to pick up a center from anybody, I mean, I don't know what necessarily the Pistons would have wanted for Drummond,
Yeah.
but if it was
Right.
that little,
Go get him.
the Rockets could have done something. But it might have been the salaries. It's probably why for them paying
True. Maybe trade.
Westbrook and Harden.
I mean, if I was the Pistons, I would have asked for Eric Gordon to make it work. But
Oh yeah, true.
that's
But
yeah,
I think I'd
that's
rather
that's
have the
them, not
shooter than
us.
the big
Right.
and Eric Gordon. So I mean, I just think that they'll find a center eventually, but I think their best opportunity of getting somebody that might be better would have been on at the deadline. So that's why they were a loser for me.
Yeah. And my other loser is going to be the Warriors. They did get Wiggins, but I mean, you're only taking a risk on him. He's already getting paid a ton of money, but like, are we sure that he's going to get better in this? Because like they're saying that he's going to a winning culture. I mean, yeah, in the past they were a winning culture, and yeah, they have players that still like to win, but that's not a winning culture right now. And I don't know. I just feel like they also gave up on D'Lo. Like I saw before the season even started when they signed him that the GM said, oh, we have no plan on trading him. We love this guy. He's our franchise shooting guard. And sure enough, they traded him. So I don't know. The Warriors, they're tanking for Wiseman for sure. But I don't like the Wiggins deal. I mean, yeah, it was probably their best interest if they wanted to completely suck to trade D'Lo away, but I wouldn't have done it. And then also you're letting go of Glenn Robinson and Alec Burks for 3 second round picks when you don't even know if they're going to be good or not. So that's
Yeah, and
my
on
other
the
big
flip
deal.
side of the Warriors deal, I mean, I don't necessarily hate it. I mean, especially because speaking of, they could have let KD walk for nothing, and they ended up getting D'Lo for not that much, and then they flipped him for. I mean, yeah, Wiggins might not be what D'Lo is, but he might be a better fit in the long run when
Mm,
Steph and Clay come back. Because I mean, honestly, there's probably a conflict there. Maybe somebody have to come off the bench or something like that just for that size. Because I
right.
mean, if you have those two guys in the backcourt, Steph and D'Lo, like there's not nobody's stopping anybody. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe Wiggins turns out he turns his career around. Maybe he just needed a change of scenery, like D'Angelo Russell did. He completely turned his career around, going from the Lakers
The Nets.
to the Nets, kind of like we're seeing with Brandon Ingram, going from the Lakers to the Pelicans. Maybe this is just the kick in the arse he needed to realize that hey. I actually have to work. My talent isn't going to get me here because he's been the same guy since he came into the league.
No
He
doubt.
hasn't progressed. He's never added that playmaking. While he could be a great defender, he has all the tools to be one. It just never translates to the games, and he's just inefficient. I saw somebody compared him. I was watching TV or something. I think it was Doug Gottlieb. He compared him like Carmelo Anthony or something. That I just
Oh
found that
damn,
funny because like he
damn.
loves the mid range shot and he doesn't play defense. So um,
That's funny.
and my last loser is gonna be the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
Why I feel like they should have maybe been more aggressive and not let your rival, your crosstown rival, get Marcus Morris. But I understand not wanting to give up Kuzma and Danny Green. I feel like for the Knicks that was kind of
They
unrational,
did ask a
especially
lot.
yeah, I feel like that's a lot to ask for. But I mean, I think the Lakers they'll be definitely big in the buyout market along with Rockets as well. So maybe who knows? Maybe they sign Darren Collinson in free agency. I mean, they get him to sign with them, not in free agency. Maybe they find somebody or just do something. But I like them hanging on to Kuzma because he's the only young guy they have. So, but I
Yeah.
do think that they were losers letting the Clippers get Marcus Morris, another guy that's versatile and can guard multiple positions.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, like seeing the Lakers not make any moves kind of told me something that they were getting told to be given like they were being told to give up too much for what they were trying to ask for, or they just think that they can win with who they have right now. And yeah, their roster is pretty good, but I feel like maybe you could have negotiated a little bit more, like looked around a little bit more besides Marcus Morris. Go get D Rose or something. Um, but yeah, I just feel like they kind of let us down for sure, for sure.
And
So
with that, I think
yeah,
we can get into the power rankings. I'll
yeah,
start it off. Our number one team was the Bucks. I mean, this year they've been the best team. Giannis, what more can you say about Giannis? The
hmm,
guy is just oh man, he's amazing. Every time you watch him play, you see him do something different. Like last night with I think he had 30, 36, and 20 rebounds and 5 dimes, 6 dimes, something like that. Like he's just putting up
against yeah,
ridiculous numbers against the Sixers, who have probably one of the best interior defenses with Horford and
Embiid.
um, Embiid down there. So definitely the Bucks have been one of the more consistent teams all year. You know what you're getting with them. You're going to have Giannis and a bunch of shooters around him ready to shoot and play defense. And I think that they're the number one team, and somebody has to come take that from them because they've been playing phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. And then for our number two team in the entire NBA, we went with the Lakers. We all saw this coming. The Lakers are definitely the only team that I can see the Bucks, having problems with. LeBron James is doing LeBron James things. AD is killing it this year. Kuzma needs to step it up, but aside from that, people like Danny Green are filling in. People like Avery Bradley are doing a good job. Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee when they come in. Alex Caruso is playing good on defense. I just feel like that team is pretty well rounded. But I would like to see Kyle Kuzma step it up a little bit more.
And another thing on the Lakers, I mean, yeah, when you add Anthony Davis to a player like LeBron James, of course it's going to translate. It might not be pretty all the time, but I feel like as the season progresses, they'll get better and better playing together. And it's kind of like the number three team. I think the Clippers, they kind of I feel like in the playoffs they'll be firing on all cylinders, but still they still been a top three team with the guys they have, the depth they have. Doc Rivers out there coaching his butt off. The
Yeah,
Clippers are just a great team, well run organization. I mean, what more can you say? They've been a good team this year.
they have for sure. So number four, because they're number three, the Clippers. We're gonna go with the Celtics. Led by Brad Stevens. You know, Kemba Walker coming in this year. Jason Tatum having a hell of a year. Jaylen Brown getting paid. Aeneas Kanter playing good. I just think that like this team is exceeding how we thought they would play for sure. Walker is always going to get a bucket. I just feel like the people that are like people like Marcus Smart and like the smaller role guys are stepping up pretty big as well. But yeah, they kind of surprised me being number four already at the halfway mark, but they're playing really well.
Yeah, and I think them getting Kimba Walker is a big reason for the jump. I mean, Kimba Walker is a team guy. I feel like he's grateful to be in this opportunity. I mean, spending his whole career in Charlotte, he's never had this type of talent around him.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of this is Jaylen Brown stepping up because when he got paid this offseason, I was kind of like, what? They gave him that much money? But this
Mm-hmm.
season, I mean, he's been balling and he's showing that he's worthy of that contract. So I mean, yeah, I agree. The Celtics, number 4 team. Number 5, I feel like this is a very surprising team. Number 5, we have the Toronto Raptors. I mean, anytime a team loses a star like Kawhi Leonard, I mean, you expect some aggression, but
Yeah,
Pascal Siakam is just blossoming in front of us. He's becoming a star in this league. I
for
mean,
sure.
he's definitely become their franchise player, and he's another guy I thought that like they paid him that much money off one postseason run, but man, he is just showing his worth. You can't say enough about Nick Nurse, the job he's done
Mm-hmm.
with this team. So the
Shout out to
Raptors,
Fred Van Vliet and Kyle
oh yeah,
Lowry as
Van
well.
Vliet, Kyle Lowry. Who else is on that? Oh, Norman Powell's been playing really good
Yeah,
this year
Mark
too.
Gasol, Norman Powell, OG.
Ibaka,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I mean, people, Fred Van Vliet is having, a great season, and that's just all credits to Nick Nurse putting him in the right situation. Kyle Lowry, he was kind of questionable, getting that money he did when he got paid last, but I mean, he's making sure that, he's worth that money, and I give him props for that.
yeah, one more thing on the Raptors is they just so good at finding like talent in the later rounds, and they actually use a G League. I think his name is what is his name like Terrence Davis or something. He's a guy they got. He was like an
Mm-hmm.
undrafted free agent, and he's been playing big minutes for them. I think that's his name.
Really?
I don't have enough
I'm
time to
not too
fact
sure.
check it, but uh, it's something Davis. But he emerged for them. He's a undrafted free agent, and I think that's amazing that they're like one of the only teams, them and the Spurs, that use the G League properly. So big props to the Raptors.
Yeah. So let's go to number six now. We have the Nuggets coming in at number six. Jokic just hit a game-winning shot a few days ago against the Blazers. That team's just firing on all cylinders right now. You have people like Gary Harris stepping up big, Will Barton playing good, Jamal Murray's playing his heart out. Jokic is putting up crazy stat lines for a guy who looks like he's totally unathletic. I mean, Mike Malone's a great coach too. I give him props for being relevant in the West with all that competition in there. But yeah, man, props to the Nuggets.
Yeah, and I think another reason they took a big jump is getting Michael Porter Jr. on the floor finally. I
Yeah,
think he brings something that they didn't have. Like they didn't have a tall wing that can score. A guy like that, the way he can score, that's just so valuable, and that takes the pressure off of Joker and Murray if they have a guy like that. Also, another I like the acquisition of them bringing in Jeremy Grant. I think that was a good under
oh
the
yeah,
radar move they made this offseason.
yeah,
So that's the Nuggets for you. And then at number 7, we have the Miami Heat. I mean, this is another surprise team. Um, they really just added Jimmy Butler and drafted Tyler Hero, and they just took off.
yep.
They're another team that finds talent very well. They have 2 undrafted players in their starting lineup with Kendrick Nunn and Duncan Robinson, who was a sniper. He's made the most
Mm-hmm.
threes off of catch and shoots. He's just a very valuable player. Kendrick Nunn's been a breakout player all year. He'll get some votes
Yeah,
for rookie of the year. And just the toughness, man. You got to give this all to Pat Riley, Coach Spolstra. They've done an excellent job down there in Miami, turning it around
mm-hmm.
from being an average team to maybe being able to push one of the top echelon teams in the East.
Yeah. Also, big props to Bam Adebayo too. Being in his first All Star game. Um, he's just a great center. I feel like, and he was kind of getting tossed around in those trade deals for Butler this off season, but I think he's just he's their franchise center for the time being. And I think he's playing his heart out as well. So let's move on to number 8 now, and we have the Rockets at number 8. Um, it might be a little too low for you guys, some might say, but I feel like they're right where they should be. They're not, they're not better than the Lakers, although they did win against them. But I feel like because they don't have a center anymore, it makes me kind of questionable. They did, they have Rocco, who they needed for that position. They have James Harden, who's going to get you 30 a night. Russell Westbrook's a walking triple double. They're still a good team. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like they're not better than the Nuggets right now. They're not better than the Clippers, that's for sure. But props to Mike D'Antoni, running that 7-second offense. James Harden's always going to get his buckets, but yeah, that center move kind of leaves me questionable.
Yeah, and at number 9, we're gonna have the Utah Jazz. I think this team was one of the more hyped teams, but I think they just needed a little bit more time to blend together. Bringing in Mike Conley, he hasn't had the best season, but I do think that'll change because he's a great player, smart guy. He'll figure it out, and I think once they're able to mesh, I think this team could maybe push some of these teams. Like I think them against the Rockets in the playoffs, that'd be an interesting series.
Yeah,
Um, but the Jazz, they're just a well-rounded, hard-nosed, defensive-minded team with their star Donovan Mitchell, who can score at will. You got Rudy Gobert protecting the rim. You got Joe Ingles, Bogdanovich, Royce O'Neal spreading the floor, hitting threes, playing defense. The Jazz are just a really solid team.
yeah, I agree. For me, I'm going with number 10 as the Sixers. This might be pretty high for them, but they've been playing like crap lately. No offense. It's just kind of been a pretty upsetting season to say the least. There's been some. I know that Josh Richardson had to set his own meeting up with the team. Al Horford hasn't been playing really well against Embiid, and I think it's making him stressed out. Ben Simmons, he's been taking jump shots, but he's not taking as much as he should. Tobias Harris is playing well, but it's just like they're not meshing yet, and it's kind of making me angry because you've dished out so much money in this offseason, and we're in a winning environment, and we're at the time to be winning, not tanking, and we're the 5th seed in the East. So yeah, that's my issue with them.
Yeah, and to backpack off that, I mean, when you got those two stars like that, you don't expect to struggle, but it's just I don't know what it is, if it's a chemistry thing or just is it a coaching thing, maybe something we have to look into more because
Yeah,
I,
Brett Brown is
I I
questionable.
don't think that it's a lot of people are talking about it's time to give up on trade one of the two stars there, either Embiid or Simmons, but I think you should at least before you make a decision like that, evaluate the coaching situation. Maybe a different coach can unlock some of these traits in Ben Simmons.
Yeah,
Maybe somebody else can motivate Joel Embiid to do something else that he's not doing well. So I think that's what they need to do. Brett Brown's a
yeah,
good guy. I know they all love him there, but maybe it's just time to get a new voice in there. Maybe somebody
yeah.
that
I
can be
mean,
more of a leader and not pat these guys on the back.
right.
Um,
It,
but
it also could be all like sentimental type of things. Like Elton Brand used to play with Al Horford, so maybe he didn't want to let him go so much. Elton Brand used to play for the Sixers under Brett Brown. Elton Brown was there, you know, to start the process. So maybe they don't want to let go of him just yet because of those emotions they have towards him. But I feel like if you want to win, you need to make your decisions as a GM, and maybe if you have to fire him.
true. And at number 11, we're gonna have the Pacers. I mean, this is a team. What they didn't have Victor Oladipo most of the year, and I think Malcolm Brogdon did a tremendous job stepping up
Yeah,
in wake of not having Victor Oladipo there. Aaron Holiday has been playing pretty good for that team, and Sabonis has definitely been the
All
bright
Star.
spot all
Yep.
season. Yeah, he made his. I believe this is his first All Star. It should be. So he was definitely a bright spot for the Pacers. Definitely a team to look out for. Um, if they get
Yeah,
hot
they're
with all those guys they got over there, they could maybe make a run at something. Who knows?
yeah for sure. I agree. So number 12 for us is going to be the Thunder. With Chris Paul going there this offseason, it was kind of questionable whether or not he even wanted to play for the Thunder, but he for sure took the ropes of that team and has led them on a pretty successful run so far this season. And also, you can't forget about the emergence of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander playing his heart out. He is averaging, I believe, I want to say he's averaging, here he goes, 19 and a half points per game, 6 boards and 3 assists, which is great for the shooting guard on that team. He's a walking bucket. Very surprising. He's playing in the skills challenge because D Rose dropped out of it. But yeah, man, that Thunder team is pretty good. Steven Adams always doing good at center. Gallinari's playing well at the 4. But yeah, I think shout out to the coaching staff. Shout out to the team for playing hard when everyone's doubting them.
Yeah, and I think coming into the season, like the Thunder, like the perception of the Thunder and the Warriors, like was probably going to be flipped. Like people thought the Warriors would sneak into the playoffs as like a 6, 7, 8 seed, and that the
Yeah,
Thunder would have the number 1 pick in the draft. And it's just so crazy how it's
it
really just
flips.
Chris Paul, Steven Adams, and a bunch of 19-year-olds and Danilo Gallinari, like, and they're just playing so well. I mean, that shows you that Chris Paul still has something, and it shows you that being a leader actually matters for that locker room. At number 13, the Dallas Mavericks. They're a little bit lower on the list because they have some injuries. Luka's out. Kristaps broke his nose, so who knows what's going on there. But other than that, this team has been pretty phenomenal when they have both their guys together. I mean, Luka is an MVP candidate this year, and Porzingis when he gets going, he's an elite big in this league, can do a little bit of everything, and I just think that duo is going to keep continuing to get better and better, and the Mavericks will be in this top tier of teams for a while with those 2 stars.
Yeah, you can go and take care of it, Nick.
Oh yeah, and then at 14 we're gonna have the Grizzlies. I mean, this is a team I love. I love John Morant. I love Jaren Jackson Jr. This is my team. Like not my team, but like because my team is horrible. So I've been rooting for the Grizzlies all season. John Morant, what more you can say? An electrifying point guard. And then I love them getting Justice Winslow,
Yeah,
especially because they didn't have anything in Iggy, and they don't really have anybody on the wing necessarily. So I like that for them. This team is just totally just did a complete 180, pushing for that 8. There, I think they're in the 8 seed currently. So props to them. Props to John Morant. The job that Memphis did, making a bold move and trading away Mike Conley, who's meant so much to that city, and not being
right.
scared to move on and admit, you know what, it's not our time. Let's build for the future. And getting a star like John Morant, and then adding to those pieces, taking some shots on these young guys like Josh Jackson, who flamed out in Phoenix. Who knows? Maybe he turns into something one day. So, I mean, I just love what the Grizzlies have done.
Yeah, I agree. So moving on to our final power ranking spot at number 15, we're going to go with the Blazers. The Blazers, Damian Lillard's playing his heart out lately. I think he's had like 3 or 4 50 or 60-point games this season. Crazy. And then his sidekick McCollum always playing well. Nurkic is going to come back soon, but they have Whiteside right now playing pretty good. I think that they just traded away or traded for Scalabissiere. I'm not too sure, but I mean he's not going to thread the needle for them. But pretty good guy, pretty good team. The coach is always like the coach for them is always making them relevant, even though they're
I
not
think
going
his
to
name is
make it.
Terry Stotts. I
Yeah,
think.
Terry Stotts. Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I mean, like the Blazers are always going to be in the playoffs, but I feel like because the West is always so stacked, they're not going to make it that far. But they're always relevant. That's for sure.
Yeah, and with them is like Dame is so good in the playoffs. He becomes scary. Like if they do squeak in as like an 8 or 7 seed, those top 2 seeds, whoever it ends up being, they have to be on their A game because Dame is just cold blooded. No pun intended. He is that dude. The game's on the line. It's Dame time. He can make it from
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. And I think that they had a slow start, but bringing in Melo really gave them a boost. Um, so this is a team that is getting hot at the right time. I feel after All Star break, maybe they make a push and elevate themselves into maybe that 5, 6, 7, 8 range and get into the playoffs and maybe pull out an upset. And eventually they're going to get Nurkic back. I don't know if that's this year or when he's coming back, but
It should be this
uh,
year.
I think so. And looking, I mean, if they get him with the way Whiteside's been playing, that's a nice 1-2 punch in the front court.
Yeah.
And like you said, when you got those two guys in the backcourt, they're liable to drop anywhere between 40 and 60 at night.
Yeah.
So the Blazers are just a team that started slow, but they've definitely turned it around, and they're going to come in at number 15 for us. And with that, that's going to wrap up our first NBA podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Leave some feedback if you're watching this on YouTube. Let us know where you think we went wrong with the power rankings. Let us know your thoughts on the winners and losers. If you disagree, let us know in the comments. And as always, thank you guys for listening.
Take care.